The research ship Stellar Harmony moved through space like a silver needle threading through black cloth. Inside the main cabin, 5 alien students sat around a curved table covered with star charts and data screens. They were the best students, from Galactic Academy, chosen for the most dangerous mission of their academic careers. Juan stood at the front of the group. His crystalline body caught the ship's lights and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. As a Valerian, his transparent skin revealed networks of blue energy flowing beneath the surface. These bioelectric sensors made him perfect for detecting life forms from great distances. His tall frame cast long shadows as he pointed to the planet growing larger on their main screen. "This is Kepler 442c," Juan said in his musical voice that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Our final destination and our final test." Nari buzzed with excitement from her seat near the navigation controls. She was barely 3 feet tall, but her 4 arms moved with incredible speed across multiple keypads at once. Her compound eyes reflected dozens of tiny images of the approaching planet. As a Zenthari, she could process visual information faster than any computer the Academy owned. Her small wings vibrated when she got excited, making a soft humming sound. "The preliminary scans are incredible," Nari chirped in her high-pitched voice. "I'm reading biosignatures unlike anything in our databases. Some of them are massive. Really, really massive." Do-Yun floated near the ceiling in his containment suit. His gaseous body swirled with deep purple clouds that meant he was thinking hard. As a Nephrite, he could change colors to show his emotions and thoughts. Right now, the purple meant concentration mixed with worry. His voice came through the suit's speakers with a slight echo. "I have been studying the records of previous expeditions to this planet," Do-Yun said slowly. "The results are troubling. In the past 50 years, 12 research teams have attempted to complete surveys here. Only 4 teams returned. None brought back complete data." Yuna's scaled tail twitched with interest. The reptilian saurid sat with perfect posture, her yellow eyes never blinking as she studied the tactical reports. Her people were natural warriors, bred for quick reflexes and strategic thinking. Her clawed hands drummed against the table in a steady rhythm. "What happened to the teams that returned?" she asked in her clipped, precise way of speaking. "They spoke of creatures that shouldn't exist," Do-Hyun replied, his gaseous form shifting to dark orange with streaks of red. "Predators that seemed to break the basic rules of biology, things that could hunt across multiple dimensions of space." Jin Yuk laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. The massive Gorvanian filled nearly half the cabin with his bulk. His rocky skin was nearly a foot thick in places, and his people had evolved on a world where everything tried to crush them. He was the team's heavy muscle and emergency demolitions. "Expert, stories to scare young students," Jin Hyuk rumbled in his deep voice that seemed to come from underground. "I have never met a creature that could not be stopped with enough force." Juan's bioelectric sensors flickered as he absorbed the team's emotions. Fear from Do-Hyun, excitement from Nari, tactical interest from Yuna, and confident dismissal from Jin Hyuk. As team leader, it was his job to keep them focused and alive. "Dr. Thekmar chose us because we represent the best of 5 different species," Juan reminded them. "Nari's engineering skills, Do-Hyun's analytical mind, Yuna's tactical knowledge, Jin Hyuk's raw power, and my biosensors. Together, we should be able to handle whatever this planet holds." The ship's computer chimed with a soft melody that meant they were entering the planet's atmosphere. Through the main viewing screen, they could see Kepler 442c growing larger by the minute. It was a beautiful world, covered in deep green forests and blue oceans. White clouds swirled in patterns that looked almost too perfect to be natural. "It looks peaceful," Nari observed, her wings fluttering softly. "The most dangerous places often do," Yuna replied. Her people had a saying that beautiful things usually wanted to kill you. As they descended through the clouds, the ship's sensors began painting a more detailed picture of the world below. The forests were thick and ancient, with trees that reached heights of nearly 1,000 feet. Rivers cut through the landscape like silver ribbons. Mountains rose in the distance like sleeping giants. But the life readings were what caught their attention. The bioscanners showed creatures of incredible size moving through the forest canopy. Some of the signatures were so large that Nari had to recalibrate the sensors twice to make sure they were working properly. "There," Juan said, pointing to a clearing near a river. "We'll land there and begin our survey." The Stellar Harmony touched down with barely a whisper. The landing systems were the best the Academy could provide, designed to minimize their impact on local ecosystems. As the engines powered down, the 5 students gathered their equipment and prepared for what they hoped would be a routine scientific expedition. Juan checked his biosensors one more time. The readings were strange, showing life signs that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Sometimes the sensors would detect massive creatures, then show nothing at all in the same location seconds later. "Is everyone ready?" he asked his team. Nari had packed enough engineering tools to build a small city. Her 4 arms juggled scanners, sample containers, and emergency repair kits with practiced ease. Do-Yun had loaded his portable laboratory with analysis equipment that could identify any known form of life in the galaxy. Yuna wore light armor and carried weapons designed for non-lethal creature control. Jinyuk had brought excavation tools that could cut through solid rock. "The mission parameters are simple," Juan continued as they moved toward the airlock. "We need to catalog at least 50 species of local fauna. We need biological samples from at least 20 of them. And we need to survive long enough to write our thesis reports." The airlock hissed open, and the warm, humid air of Kepler 442c rushed in to greet them. It smelled of growing things and rich earth, with undertones of something else that none of them could identify. Something that made the hair on Yuna's arms stand up and caused Do-Hyun's gaseous form to shift to a cautious yellow-green. As they stepped out onto the soft ground of the alien world, none of them noticed that the forest around them had gone completely silent. No bird calls, no insect sounds, no rustling of small creatures in the underbrush. The jungle held its breath, as if waiting for something terrible to begin. The jungle stayed silent for 3 hours as the alien students moved deeper into the forest. Their footsteps on the soft ground seemed loud in the unnatural quiet. Even Nari's sensitive hearing picked up nothing except their own breathing and the soft hum of their equipment. Juan led the group with his biosensors fully active. The blue energy under his crystalline skin pulsed faster as he tried to detect any life forms around them. But the readings kept changing in ways that made no sense. One moment he would detect a massive creature 50 meters to their left. The Mao. Next moment, nothing. Then the same signature would appear behind them. "This is wrong," he whispered to the others. "The sensors show life everywhere and nowhere at the same time." Nari flew up to get a better view from above the group. Her 4 arms worked quickly to adjust her scanning equipment. Her compound eyes could see heat patterns that the others missed, but what she found made her wings stop fluttering. "The trees," she said in a voice that shook with fear. "Look at the trees." The massive trunks around them were covered with claw marks, deep gouges in the bark that were too wide to be made by any creature in their databases. Some of the marks were fresh, with sap still bleeding from the wounds. Others were old and weathered, showing that whatever made them had been hunting in this forest for a long time. Do-Yun's gaseous form turned a sickly green color as he analyzed the claw marks with his portable sensors. His voice came through the containment suit speakers with a tremor. "The depth of these marks suggests claws at least 6 inches long," he reported. "The spacing indicates a hand or paw nearly 2 feet wide. Whatever made these marks is large, enough to use these 1,000-foot trees as scratching posts." Yuna drew her weapon, a non-lethal stunner designed to stop aggressive animals without permanent harm. Her reptilian instincts were screaming danger, and her yellow eyes darted constantly between the trees. Every shadow looked like it might hide a predator. "We should go back," she said flatly. "This is not a normal hunting ground. This is a killing field." Jin-hyuk laughed his grinding laugh, but it sounded forced. Even his rock-hard confidence was beginning to crack. "We came here to study dangerous creatures. It seems we have found them." They continued moving through the forest, collecting samples of plants and insects when they could find them. But the deeper they went, the more obvious it became that most of the normal wildlife was gone. They found empty nests, abandoned burrows, and the scattered bones of creatures that had fled too late. That was when Nari's equipment detected the first definite life reading. Something big was moving parallel to their path, staying just out of sight behind the trees. Her scanners showed it was roughly 12 feet tall and moving with the fluid grace of a natural predator. "We're being followed," she announced, her voice barely above a whisper. Juan's biosensors confirmed it. The creature was definitely there, definitely massive, and definitely interested in them. But every time he tried to get a clear reading, the signature would blur and shift as if the creature was somehow interfering with their technology. "It's studying us," Yuna realized with growing horror. "It's learning our movements." To test her theory, she stepped to the left. The creature matched her movement. She stepped back to the right. Again, it followed. When she stopped, it stopped. When she started moving again, it resumed its parallel course. Do-hyun's form had turned, completely orange with red streaks, the nephrite colors for extreme danger and fear. "This behavior indicates high intelligence. It's not just hunting us, it's analyzing our capabilities." The creature continued to shadow them for another hour. Occasionally, they would catch glimpses of it through the trees, a flash of dark, shifting color that seemed to bend light around it, movement that was too smooth and quiet for something so large, eyes that reflected their equipment lights with an intelligence that was definitely not animal. Then their defensive drones started disappearing. Nari had deployed 6 small security drones to patrol around their group. These floating sensors were designed to detect and warn of approaching threats. They were fast, agile, and equipped with emergency shields. One by one, they simply vanished. The first drone went dark without any warning. 1 second, it was transmitting normal readings. The next second, it was gone. No distress signal, no sign of struggle, no debris. How does something that large move fast enough to catch a drone? Nari asked, frantically trying to contact her remaining units. The second drone lasted 10 more minutes before it too disappeared. This time, Nari caught a brief glimpse of what happened. Something dark flowed around the drone like liquid shadow. When the shadow cleared, both the drone and the creature were gone. "It can phase," Do-hyun said in amazement and terror. "It's moving partially out of normal space. That's why our sensors can't track it properly." By the time they realized what they were facing, they had walked into a trap. The creature had been herding them toward a narrow canyon with high walls on both sides. The only way out was the way they had come in, and their pursuer now blocked that path. Juan turned his biosensors to maximum power and finally got a clear reading of their stalker. What he found made his crystalline body dim with shock. The creature was unlike anything in their databases or their worst nightmares. It stood 12 feet tall on powerful legs that ended in claws capable of ripping through their ship's hull. Its body was covered with hide that shifted colors and patterns like active camouflage. 4 arms ended in hands that could manipulate tools or tear apart prey with equal skill. But the most terrifying feature was its eyes. They held an intelligence that was cold, calculating, and completely focused on the 5 alien students. This was not just a predator. This was something that had evolved to be the perfect killer. Jin-hyuk raised his excavation tools, plasma cutters designed to slice through solid rock. "Stay behind me. I can cut us a path through the canyon walls." The creature tilted its head. and made a sound that their universal translators couldn't process. Then it did something that froze their blood. It laughed. Not the laugh of an animal, but the laugh of something that found their defiance amusing. Yuna fired her stunner at maximum setting. The energy beam that could drop a charging rhinoceros passed right through the creature as it phased out of normal space. When it phased back in, it was 10 feet closer. "Run!" Juan commanded. "Everyone run now!" They ran deeper into the canyon, their equipment bouncing and rattling with each desperate step. Behind them, the creature followed at an easy pace, no longer bothering to hide. It knew they were trapped. It knew they couldn't escape. Now it was just deciding which of them to kill first. The canyon ended at a sheer rock wall that rose 300 feet straight up. There was nowhere left to run. The 5 students turned to face their death, weapons ready but knowing they were useless against something that could exist between dimensions. The creature stepped into the open canyon, its camouflage hide rippling, with colors that hurt their eyes to look at directly. It raised all 4 arms, claws extended, and prepared to end their brief scientific careers in the most violent way possible. That was when they heard the sound of engines overhead and saw a small ship crash landing just outside the canyon mouth. The crashed ship smoked and sparked outside the canyon entrance. Metal groaned as something moved inside the wreckage. The 5 alien students pressed themselves against the canyon wall, trapped between the rock face behind them and the deadly creature in front of them. The Vorthak had stopped moving when the ship crashed. Its camouflage hide rippled with new patterns as it turned its attention toward the noise. For the first time since they had encountered it, the perfect predator seemed uncertain about something. A section of the crashed ship's hull fell away with a loud clang. Smoke poured out of the opening, followed by a figure that stumbled into the evening light. The alien students stared in amazement as they got their first look at their unexpected visitor. It was a human. The creature looked completely ordinary, by galactic standards. He stood about 6 feet tall, with brown hair and skin that showed signs of spending time outdoors. He wore standard research clothing that was now torn and dirty from the crash. A small pack on his back contained what looked like basic survival gear. No weapons, no armor, no obvious enhancements of any kind. Juan's biosensors analyzed the newcomer automatically. Single heart, bilateral symmetry, standard carbon-based biology, nothing special, nothing that would suggest this creature could survive 5 minutes on a planet that had killed so many research teams. The human brushed dust off his clothes and looked around calmly. When he spotted the alien students trapped in the canyon, he waved at them like he was greeting old friends at a picnic. "Hello there," the human called out in perfectly translated galactic standard. "Everyone okay? That was a rough landing." Nari buzzed with confusion, her compound eyes trying to process what she was seeing. Does he not see the Vorthak? The human definitely saw the creature. He was looking right at it with calm interest, the way a scientist might examine an interesting rock formation. He pulled a small device from his pocket and pointed it at the massive predator. "Fascinating," he said to himself, apparently taking readings. Adaptive camouflage, probable dimensional phasing capabilities, definitely apex predator class. This is going to make an excellent research paper. That was when something incredible happened. The Vorthak, the perfect killing machine, that had been hunting them like helpless prey, began to back away from the human. The creature's confident posture changed completely. Its 4 arms pulled closer to its body in a defensive stance. The camouflage patterns on its hide shifted to colors the students had never seen before, rapid flashes of orange and yellow that their translators identified as alarm signals. Most shocking of all, the Vorthak made sounds that were clearly distress calls. The creature that had laughed at their weapons was now calling for help. "Impossible," Yuna whispered, her weapon still trained on the retreating predator. "It's afraid of him." The human seemed completely unaware of the effect he was having. He walked closer to the canyon entrance, still taking readings with his device. The Vorthak backed away further, its movements now quick and nervous rather than the smooth confidence it had shown before. "I'm Minsu," the human said, introducing himself to the students as if they weren't all about to die horribly. "Human xenobiologist from the research station on the Outer Rim. Sorry about dropping in like this, but my navigation system had some trouble with the local magnetic fields." Do-hyun's gaseous form had shifted to confused purple mixed with relieved blue. "The creature is retreating. It's actually retreating from him." Minsu noticed the Vorthak's behavior for the first time and looked genuinely puzzled. "Oh, is it bothering you? Let me see if I can encourage it to move along." He took a step toward the creature and made a small shooing motion with his hand, the kind of gesture someone might use to move a cat off a chair. The effect on the Vorthak was immediate and dramatic. The 12-foot killing machine let out what could only be described as a yelp of fear. It scrambled backward so quickly that it nearly fell over its own feet. Its camouflage flickered wildly between colors that meant terror, confusion, and desperate need to escape. "There we go," Minsu said with satisfaction. "Now, let's get you folks somewhere safer. This area isn't great for camping." He walked into the canyon like he owned it, completely ignoring the fact that moments ago it had been a death trap. The Vorthak retreated to what it apparently considered a safe distance and crouched behind a cluster of trees, watching the human with the fascinated horror of a mouse watching a snake. Jinyuk's rocky features couldn't show expression, but his voice carried pure amazement. "How is this possible? What did he do?" "I didn't do anything," Minsu replied cheerfully. "Just said hello. You're Academy students, right? I can tell from the equipment. Final expedition project?" Hwan managed to find his voice despite his shock. "You are human. The creature fears you." "Why?" Minsu looked genuinely confused by the question. "Fears me? I don't think so. It's probably just being cautious around an unknown species. Most predators are careful around things they haven't encountered before." He began helping the students gather their scattered equipment, chatting casually while the universe's deadliest creature cowered in the trees nearby. "I've been studying the local wildlife for about 6 months. Fascinating ecosystem. Very complex. Predator-prey relationships." Nari hovered near Minsu, her 4 arms moving nervously. "The creature was hunting us. It killed our defensive drones. It can phase between dimensions." "Oh, a phase hunter," Minsu said with interest. "I've read about those but never seen one in person. They're supposed to be incredibly rare. You're lucky to encounter one." "Lucky?" Yuna's voice cracked with disbelief. "It was about to kill us." Minsu paused in his equipment gathering and looked at the students with something approaching concern. "Kill you? Are you sure? Phase hunters are typically very cautious about engaging unknown species. They usually observe for long periods before deciding whether something is prey or threat." From its hiding place, the Vorthak made another distress call. The sound was plaintive and worried, like a dog whining to be let inside during a thunderstorm. "See?" Minsu said, pointing toward the creature. "It's just confused and looking for reassurance, probably wondering what you're doing in its territory." The 5 alien students looked at each other in complete bewilderment. They had just witnessed the galaxy's most perfect predator reduced to a nervous wreck by the presence of a single, apparently, ordinary human. Nothing in their education had prepared them for this. "Perhaps," Hwan said carefully, "you could help us reach our ship safely." "Of course," Minsu replied. "No problem at all. These forests can be tricky to navigate if you don't know the local wildlife patterns." As they began walking back toward their landing site, the Vorthak followed at a distance. It moved carefully from tree to tree, clearly wanting to observe the strange human but terrified of getting too close. Every few minutes it would make soft vocalizations that sounded like questions it desperately wanted answered. Minsu seemed completely oblivious to the creature's presence, chatting easily with the students about their research project and sharing stories about his own work on the planet. The students walked in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. Everything they thought they knew about predators, about danger, about humans, had just been turned upside down in the space of a few minutes. Behind them, the perfect killing machine continued to follow like a nervous puppy, afraid to approach, but unable to look away from the most terrifying creature it had ever encountered. The group took shelter in a cave system that Minsu seemed to know well. He led them through the passages with confident steps, while the alien students followed in amazed silence. Outside, they could hear the Vorthak pacing back and forth, making worried sounds, but never coming close enough to actually see them. "This should be safe for the night," Minsu said, as he set up a small camp light. "The caves have good airflow and multiple exits. Always important to have escape routes." The casual way he talked about escape routes sent chills through the students. They were beginning to realize that this ordinary-looking human lived in a world where escape routes were necessary survival considerations. Nari's compound eyes studied Minsu carefully as he unpacked his gear. Everything he carried had multiple purposes. His water container could also be used as a weapon. His food rations were stored in containers that could serve as explosive devices. Even his clothing had hidden pockets filled with tools that looked innocent but could probably kill in the right hands. "Tell us about your species," Juan requested, his biosensors still trying to understand what made this creature so dangerous. "We have studied humans in our academy courses, but the information seems incomplete." Minsu laughed, a sound that somehow made the Vorthak outside whimper with fear. "What would you like to know? We're pretty straightforward as species go." "Your planet," Dohyun said, his gaseous form swirling with curious yellow patterns. "What? Is Earth like?" "Oh, it's a death world," Minsu replied cheerfully while arranging his sleeping gear. "Extreme weather, active geology, aggressive wildlife, poisonous plants, deadly bacteria, you name it. Most galactic species classify it as uninhabitable." The students exchanged glances. A death world. That explained some things. But humans evolved. "There," Yuna pointed out. "How did your species survive?" "We got creative," Minsu said with a shrug. "When the environment tried to kill us, we learned to kill it back. When predators hunted us, we became better hunters. When diseases attacked us, we developed immunity. When the planet itself tried to destroy us, we just refused to die." He pulled out materials to start a small fire. The students watched in fascination as he created flames using nothing but stones and dried plant matter. To them, it looked like he was casually creating a controlled explosion for entertainment. "Fire was one of our first tools," Minsu explained as he fed the flames. "Most species discover fire and use it for warmth or light. Humans discovered fire and immediately thought about all the things we could burn down with it." Jin Hyuk's rocky features couldn't show expression, but his voice carried new respect. "Your species weaponized combustion as children." "Well, children and adults," Minsu corrected. "We never really stopped finding new things to burn, or blow up, or melt with, acid, or freeze solid, or launch into space. Humans are very good at finding creative ways to destroy things." As he prepared a simple meal, the students watched him demonstrate casual lethality that they were only beginning to understand. He used a knife that could cut through their equipment like paper. He mixed chemicals to purify water, chemicals that could also dissolve flesh. He prepared food using processes that looked like weapons demonstrations. "The interesting thing about Earth," Minsu continued while his dinner cooked over the fire, "is that it taught us to see opportunity in everything. Other species look at poison and see danger. Humans look at poison and think about what we can kill with it. Other species see explosives as hazardous. Humans see explosives as fun." Dohyun's form had turned a fascinated orange color. You consume toxins for pleasure. Oh yes, Minsu nodded enthusiastically. Alcohol, caffeine, capsaicin. From spicy foods, nicotine, all sorts of things that would kill most species. We eat them like snacks. Humans have a saying, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. If it does kill you, well, at least you found out what your limits were. The fire crackled cheerfully while outside the cave. The Vorthak made anxious sounds. The perfect predator was clearly struggling to understand what it was dealing with. Your species treats survival as recreation, Yuna observed with growing amazement. Pretty much, Minsu agreed. We climb mountains because they're dangerous. We swim in oceans full of creatures that want to eat us. We explore caves that might collapse. We race vehicles at speeds that should kill us. We jump out of aircraft for fun. Other species call it insanity. We call it Tuesday. He offered to share his food with the students, not realizing that his casual generosity was another terrifying display of confidence. Only apex predators shared food without concern. But what makes the creature so afraid? Juan asked, his biosensors still detecting the Vorthak's distress outside the cave. Minsu thought about this while chewing a bite of food. I think it's the unpredictability. Most species evolve specialized survival strategies. Predators learn to hunt specific types of prey using predictable methods. But humans don't follow patterns. He gestured with his knife, another casual display of deadly tool use. We're persistence hunters who can also ambush. We're social pack animals who can survive alone. We're tool users who can fight with bare hands. We're intelligent problem solvers who can also act on pure instinct. We're prey animals who became predators who remained omnivores. The students were beginning to understand. Every other species in the galaxy had clear roles and predictable behaviors. Humans were chaos in biological form. Plus, Minsu added thoughtfully, we don't know when to quit. Most creatures have survival instincts that tell them when a fight is hopeless. Humans have survival instincts that tell us to try something different. We don't surrender. We don't give up. We just get angry and creative. He told them stories as the fire burned lower. Stories of humans who survived impossible odds through sheer stubborn refusal to die. Humans who turned disadvantages into weapons. Humans who looked at certain death and decided to take their enemies with them. There was a human named Murphy, Minsu said, who got trapped in a cave-in with a broken arm and no tools. He dug his way out with his bare hands over the course of 3 days. When rescuers finally reached him, he was planning to go back in to retrieve his equipment. The cave was still actively collapsing, he continued. Murphy didn't care. He wanted his stuff back. Outside the cave, the Vorthak made a sound that was clearly a whimper. Even through rock and distance, it had apparently heard enough of the conversation to be thoroughly terrified. So you see, Minsu concluded as he banked the fire for the night. I think your phase hunter friend is just being sensibly cautious. It's encountered a species that doesn't follow the normal rules of predator and prey. It doesn't know what we might do next, and that uncertainty is the most dangerous thing in the universe. The alien students settled down for what they hoped would be a peaceful night's sleep. But each of them lay awake for a long time, thinking about everything they had learned. They had come to this planet expecting to study dangerous creatures. Instead, they had discovered that the most dangerous creature in the galaxy was sleeping peacefully next to their campfire, completely unaware of its own terrifying nature. And outside in the darkness, the universe's perfect predator continued. Its nervous vigil, afraid to approach but unable to leave, desperately trying to understand what it meant to encounter something even more dangerous than itself. Morning came with the sound of Minsu preparing breakfast over his rebuilt fire. The alien students woke to find him cheerfully cooking something that smelled wonderful, but looked like it might explode at any moment. Steam rose from his portable cooking pot in patterns that hurt their eyes to look at directly. Good morning, everyone, Minsu called out. I found some local fruits and roots that are safe for most carbon-based life forms. Well, safe for humans anyway. Your digestive systems might be more sensitive than ours. The casual admission that he regularly ate things that might poison other species was just another reminder of what the students were dealing with. Nari's compound eyes tracked his movements as he added ingredients to his cooking pot with the precision of someone mixing explosives. "Is that safe to eat?" Do-yun asked, his gaseous form swirling with cautious yellow patterns. "Probably," Minsu replied, with a smile that made the distant Vorthak whimper. "The purple berries are only mildly toxic, and the roots just cause temporary paralysis in most species. Nothing that should bother us." He offered them some of their own emergency rations instead, which they accepted gratefully. As they ate, Minsu began packing up their camp with an efficiency that looked like military training. Every movement had purpose. Every tool was checked and secured properly. "We should reach your ship by midday if we take the direct route," he said while shouldering his pack. "Though I recommend we take the scenic route instead. More interesting wildlife to observe." Yuna's reptilian instincts were screaming warnings. "The direct route would be safer, wouldn't it?" Minsu looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Safer? I suppose. But you'd miss seeing the crystal spiders and the singing flowers. This might be your only chance to study them." The idea that anyone would voluntarily choose the more dangerous path for educational purposes was another glimpse into the human mindset that terrified and fascinated the students in equal measure. They began their journey through the forest with Minsu leading the way. The human moved through the dangerous terrain like he was taking a casual walk through a park. He pointed out interesting plants, identified animal tracks, and shared fascinating facts about the local ecosystem. "Those claw marks on that tree are from a tunnel cat," he explained cheerfully. "They're about the size of your Gorvanian friend there, but they can compress their bodies to fit through spaces no bigger than your head. Fascinating adaptation." Jin-hyuk looked at the claw marks that were clearly made by something much larger than he was, then at the tiny holes in the ground that the tunnel cats apparently emerged from. "How does something that large compress itself?" "Very carefully," Minsu replied, "and with a lot of practice. They start learning as cubs by squeezing through progressively smaller spaces. By the time they're adults, they can basically become living liquid when they need to." The students exchanged nervous glances. Another impossibly dangerous creature that Minsu discussed like it was a cute pet. As they walked, Minsu demonstrated the casual lethality that made humans so feared throughout the galaxy. When they encountered a fallen tree blocking their path, he didn't walk around it. He pulled out a small device and cut through the massive trunk in seconds, creating a perfect tunnel for them to walk through. "Plasma cutter," he explained too. Their amazed stares. "Standard geological survey equipment, also useful for emergency surgery, cooking, self-defense, and fireworks." The fact that he carried surgical-grade cutting tools as everyday equipment was another reminder that humans lived in a completely different reality than other species. When they stopped for water at a stream, Minsu showed them how to purify it using tablets that dissolved with small explosions. While they watched in fascination, he explained that the same tablets could be used to create emergency signaling devices or improvised weapons. "Everything has multiple uses if you think creatively," he said while filling their containers. Water, purification tablets, emergency flares, contact explosives, all the same basic chemistry, just a matter of concentration and delivery method. Nari's engineering mind was struggling to process this information. "You carry explosive compounds as routine supplies." "Of course," Minsu nodded. "You never know when you might need to blow something up. Could be a rock slide blocking your path, could be a predator that won't take no for an answer, could be a celebration that needs more excitement. Better to be prepared." The Vorthak had been following them all morning, maintaining its careful distance, but clearly unable to resist observing the strange human. Every time Minsu did something casually dangerous, the perfect predator would make anxious sounds and retreat a little further. When they stopped for lunch, Minsu began preparing food in a way that looked like a weapons demonstration. He used controlled fire to cook meat, mixed chemicals to create flavoring compounds, and handled sharp tools with the casual expertise of someone who had been using deadly implements since childhood. Cooking is just chemistry applied to nutrition, he explained while creating what appeared to be a controlled explosion to season his food. Same principles as making medicine, creating poisons, or building bombs: heat, pressure, chemical reactions, timing. The only difference is the intended result. Juan's biosensors were working overtime trying to understand the human's casual relationship with dangerous processes. Your species treats essential survival activities as weapons training. Not exactly, Minsu corrected while his lunch continued to emit small sparks and aromatic smoke. We treat weapons as tools, and tools as everyday necessities. A knife cuts food or enemies with equal efficiency. Fire cooks dinner or burns down obstacles. Explosives clear mining sites or eliminate threats. It's all about application and intent. As the day progressed, the students began to understand why the Vorthak was so terrified. Every human behavior they witnessed was a demonstration of barely controlled lethality. Minsu didn't just walk through the forest. He analyzed it for resources and tactical advantages. He didn't just identify plants, he categorized them by their potential uses as food, medicine, poison, or weapons. When they encountered a pack of smaller predators blocking their path, Minsu didn't fight them or run from them. He simply walked toward them with a confidence that made the animals immediately retreat. The students realized they were watching apex predator recognition in action. "How did you know they would run?" Yuna asked after the creatures had fled. "Body language," Minsu replied simply. "They were hunting in a pack, which means they're used to overwhelming individual prey through numbers. But they also showed defensive postures when they saw me, which means their instincts recognized a superior predator. When a pack hunter shows submission signals, they'll always choose retreat over confrontation." The casual way he analyzed and manipulated predator behavior was another demonstration of why humans were so feared. They didn't just survive in dangerous environments. They dominated them through pure understanding and application of violence. By afternoon, even the Vorthak seemed to be learning from watching Minsu. The perfect killing machine began moving differently, copying some of the humans' tactical awareness and environmental analysis. It was becoming a more efficient predator just by observing human behavior. "I think your friend back there is studying me as much as you are," Minsu observed with amusement. "Phase hunters are remarkably intelligent. It's probably trying to figure out if human techniques would work with its own hunting style." The idea that the universe's deadliest creature was taking lessons from a human was both terrifying and oddly reassuring. If the Vorthak could learn to be more like humans, maybe other species could too. As they approached the landing site where their ship waited, the students realized their entire understanding of danger, survival, and predation had been completely transformed. They had spent a day with a creature so casually lethal that it made the galaxy's perfect predator look like a nervous student. And Minsu had done it all while being genuinely helpful, educational, and kind. He was the most dangerous thing they had ever encountered, and also the most generous teacher they had ever met. The stellar harmony sat exactly where they had left it, gleaming silver in the afternoon sunlight. The sight of their ship should have brought relief to the alien students, but instead, they felt a strange sadness. Their time with Minsu had shown them a universe far more complex and dangerous than anything they had learned in their academy classes. "There she is," Minsu said with satisfaction. "Safe and sound. Your landing technique was excellent, by the way. Minimal environmental impact and good tactical positioning for quick departure." Even his compliments carried implications of violence and survival that the students were only beginning to understand. A good landing wasn't just about convenience. It was about being ready to escape when something tried to kill you. As they approached the ship, The Vorthak finally made its boldest move of the entire encounter. The perfect predator emerged from the tree line and walked to within 50 feet of their group. It moved carefully, almost respectfully, like a student approaching a master for final instruction. Minsu noticed the creature's approach and stopped walking. For the first time since they had met him, he gave the Vorthak his full attention. The human and the perfect killer studied each other across the small distance, two apex predators acknowledging what they were. "Beautiful creature," Minsu said, quietly. "Look at that adaptive camouflage system, and the way it moves between dimensions. Millions of years of evolution created something absolutely perfect for its environment." The students realized they were witnessing something incredible. Minsu wasn't afraid of the Vorthak because he recognized it as a kindred spirit. Both species had evolved to be ultimate survivors, but in completely different ways. The Vorthak made a sound that their translators identified as a question. Its body language showed curiosity mixed with deep respect. It wanted to understand what it had encountered. Minsu nodded slowly, as if he could understand the creature's intent. "You're wondering what we are, aren't you? Fair question. Humans are what happens when a death world refuses to kill a species that refuses to die." He took a step closer to the Vorthak, and amazingly, the creature didn't retreat. Instead, it lowered its massive head in what looked unmistakably like a respectful bow. "We're not enemies," Minsu continued in his calm, educational tone. "We're both products of environments that demanded perfection or extinction. You chose specialized perfection. We chose adaptable chaos. Both strategies work, just in different ways." The Vorthak straightened up and made another sound, this one clearly, communicative rather than threatening. It was trying to establish some form of dialogue. Nari's compound eyes tracked the exchange with fascination. "It's trying to communicate with him. The perfect predator wants to learn from the human." "Of course it does," Do-Yun observed, his gaseous form swirling with amazed colors. "It recognizes superior adaptation when it encounters it." Minsu spent several minutes in what could only be called a conversation with the Vorthak. Neither species could understand the other's language, but they communicated through body language, demonstration, and mutual respect between apex predators. The human showed the creature some of his tools and techniques. The Vorthak demonstrated its phasing abilities and camouflage systems. They were sharing survival strategies across the species barrier, teaching each other methods for dominating their respective environments. "This is incredible," Juan whispered, his biosensors recording every detail of the unprecedented exchange. Two perfect killing machines are having a friendly educational discussion. Finally, the Vorthak stepped back and made what their translators identified as farewell sounds. It had learned what it wanted to know and was ready to return to its territory. But before it left, it did something that shocked the students to their cores. The universe's deadliest creature performed what could only be described as a salute. It raised all four arms in a gesture of respect and acknowledgement, recognizing Minsu as a fellow master of survival and death. Minsu returned the salute with a simple nod and raised hand. "Safe hunting," he said quietly. The Vorthak phased out of normal space and disappeared, leaving only disturbed air to mark where it had been. The perfect predator had encountered something even more perfect and had chosen respect over challenge. "How?" Yuna asked in a voice filled with awe. "How did you do that?" Minsu looked genuinely confused by her amazement. "Do what?" It was just being polite. Most intelligent predators understand the concept of professional courtesy. The casual way he described courtesy between killers was another reminder of the world humans lived in. They didn't just survive in a universe full of dangers. They formed professional relationships with those dangers. As they reached their ship, another craft appeared in the sky above them. A human rescue vessel, sleek and deadly looking even by Galactic standards descended toward them with impressive speed and precision. "That would be my ride," Minsu said as the rescue ship landed nearby. "My research station got worried when I didn't check in yesterday. They sent a recovery team. 3 more humans emerged from the rescue craft, each one carrying equipment that looked like it could level a small city. They moved with the same casual confidence as Minsu, treating the dangerous alien world like a minor inconvenience. "Everyone okay here?" called the lead rescuer, a woman with scars that suggested she had survived encounters that would have killed most species several times over. "All good," Minsu replied. "Just helped some academy students with a local wildlife encounter." Nothing serious. Nothing serious. He had faced down the universe's perfect predator and dismissed it as nothing serious. As Minsu prepared to leave with his rescuers, the alien students gathered around him for final questions. Their entire worldview had been shattered and rebuilt in the space of a single day. "What should we tell our professors about what we learned here?" Juan asked. Minsu thought about this seriously. "Tell them that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. It's about being willing to adapt, to learn, and to never give up. Tell them that the most dangerous creature in any environment isn't necessarily the one with the biggest claws or the sharpest teeth. It's the one that refuses to accept that anything is impossible." He shouldered his pack and prepared to board the rescue ship. "Oh, and tell them that humans aren't actually trying to be scary. We're just trying to survive in a universe that keeps trying to kill us. The fact that we're good at it isn't our fault." As the human rescue team prepared for departure, the woman with scars looked at the alien students with something that might have been sympathy. "First time meeting humans in their natural environment?" she asked with a grin that showed too many teeth. "Yes," Nari managed to say, her wings fluttering nervously. "Gets easier," the woman assured them. "Just remember that we're friendly as long as you don't try to hurt us, our friends, or anything we consider worth protecting, which is pretty much everything." The rescue ship lifted off with a roar of engines that sounded like controlled explosions. Within minutes, it was just a bright point disappearing into the sky, leaving the alien students alone with their ship and their completely transformed understanding of the universe. As they prepared for departure, each student worked on their individual reports, but they all found themselves writing variations of the same conclusion. They had come to study the universe's deadliest creature. They had found it in the Vorthak, a perfect predator that represented millions of years of evolutionary refinement toward ultimate lethality, but they had also learned that even perfect predators could be afraid. The Vorthak had encountered something that terrified it on a fundamental level, something that challenged every assumption about survival and dominance. They had watched the most dangerous creature in known space show respect and fear toward a single seemingly ordinary human. They had learned that humans didn't become apex predators despite being weak and slow and fragile. They became apex predators because they were weak and slow and fragile and refused to let those limitations stop them. As the stellar harmony lifted off from Kepler 442c, carrying its cargo of stunned students back toward Galactic Academy, their final report was already taking shape in their minds. "We went searching for the universe's deadliest creature," Juan wrote in his personal log. "We found it. It was afraid of humans. We now understand why." Behind them, the planet Kepler 442c continued its ancient rotation, home to wonders and terrors beyond imagination. In its deepest forests, a perfect predator had learned new ways to hunt and survive, thanks to lessons from an even more perfect predator. And somewhere among the stars, the human rescue ship carried Minsu back to his research station, where he would file a routine report about helping some academy students and observing an interesting example of phase hunter behavior. Just another day in the life of humanity, the species that had accidentally become the universe's most feared predator, by simply refusing to admit that anything could kill them permanently.